Good day, everyone. So I'm back with another round of holiday horror. This one is a 2008 British horror film called The Children, directed by Tom Shankland and available to stream on Shudder. I hadn't seen this one upon its initial release in '08. This was another great surprise like Santa's Sleigh. Like it really was another wake-up call because man oh man did I love this movie. And I don't know if the ghost of Christmas horror or even maybe Krampus himself has been watching over me as a guardian, but no sooner do I say in my Santa's Sleigh review that I would love to see more horrible things happening to children and involving children in horror movies when I get to watch this sucker. Being as it's an older movie, it might have been a collaboration between The Ghost of Christmas Past and The Ghost of Christmas Horror, but either way, my prayers got answered full-fledged. As the Offspring song goes, the kids aren't all right in this movie. Are they ever not all right? Holy shit. This movie is nihilistic, nasty, and does not care about your delicate sensibilities one little bit. If you're a new parent who falls into that category, I would probably steer clear of this one. I mean, technically, this is a movie that takes place over the New Year's holidays rather than Christmas itself, but hey, it still scratches the blood and snow itch. It's still the holidays. It still is getting another permanent spot on my Christmas horror rotation. And the opening scenes establish a premise that actually reminded me a little bit of the opening part of the movie You're Next. Just like that film, The Children opens with a family coming together for the holidays, and it's very apparent that there are some buried stories and deep-seated resentments and issues that have been unresolved and are festering just below the surface. But because this is a very British movie, shall we say, it's done in a way that is more understated and a little more subtle than you might get in an American counterpart. And before things hit the fan, which does not take long at all, there's still enough of a slow burn build up to make it clear that there is something off with the kids even before they go getting really crazy on you. At first it seems like it might just be that one of the kids got car sick, then it seems like it might be a case of the flu that the kids are passing around, and not too long after that it becomes clear that it's something much more savage and sinister. And it's a good jump off point because I think that most of us can relate to being on a family holiday and having to deal with a flu or a virus or something that just ends up cutting through all the kids, if not all the parents as well, and making the holiday kind of a bit of an impromptu sick ward. God knows I had experiences like that when I was a kid. But I digress. The point is that, like a lot of Stephen King's best work, it starts off with a very mundane and relatable predicament that spirals into something entirely different. The lo-fi, gritty way that Tom Shankland chooses to film this movie gives it a very stark quality that lends itself well to winter and does succeed in making it feel genuinely cold. Partway through the movie, I found myself thinking that some of these parents probably don't really care at this point whether they survive the ordeal or not. They just want to have one more cup of hot chocolate before they die. And spoiler alert, most of them do. I'm honestly not sure whether this movie would be more of a harrowing experience for you if you're someone who loves your kids or if you hate kids. But either way, brace yourself, like really brace yourself. Because once this movie kicks into high gear, it has such a frenzied and aggressive pace to it that I was at certain points actually sitting here gripping my seat while I was watching it. Like the movie is that relentless. You can tell that Tom Shankland has really studied the shower scene in Psycho because there's a lot of moments where the way that things are cut together make it feel like you're seeing more violence than you actually are. There's a lot more that's done by implication and suggestion and suspense than through direct visceral depictions of violence. Although you're going to get your fill of that too, don't you worry. There are moments where that frenzied editing style does verge on being self-defeating, just because there are several sequences where I think unless you're paying very, very close attention to detail, you might miss the connections that are being made or even just what is happening immediately in the scene. But that's a very minor nitpick, and I have a funny feeling that upon rewatch, a lot of those little details will be easier to pick up. But again, I cannot overstate how impressed I am with the sustained energy that Tom Shankland creates with the pacing of this film. I actually remember pausing it at one point to go grab a drink and looking at how much time was left and thinking to myself, like, holy crap, there's only 15 minutes left in this movie? So, like, we're at the climax already? I mean, granted, I don't know what else you could have put in at this point, but it still feels like we got here really quickly. And even near the end of the film, when there's a couple of moments where Tom Shankland relaxes the editing and lets everything breathe, at least stylistically speaking, where we are greeted with some longer, more patient shots of imagery that is genuinely chilling and haunting. I was not expecting this movie to be like this, but I couldn't have been more pleasantly surprised. As I mentioned in a private discussion with someone, this almost feels like if you crossed a British Hammer horror film with the mundane setting of a New French Extremity movie. Even if this movie doesn't quite go for the jugular the way a New French Extremity film does, anyone who's a fan of exploitation cinema is not going to leave this one feeling that they got gypped. It's a good thing the Wet Bandits didn't catch these kids home alone, let me tell you. I know, at this point you could probably do a shot for every time I make reference to the Wet Bandits in one of my reviews, but what can I say, I'm a big Home Alone fan. This definitely also makes me curious to check out more of Tom Shankland's filmography. When I did a quick search, I couldn't find anything else he'd done that really seemed to make much of a splash, but at least this film does seem to have a dedicated cult following, and if I can help it, that will continue. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that there hasn't been an American remake of this movie yet, although if they did, I have a pessimistic feeling that they would probably try to water it down. But if you're a fan of exploitation films in general, or any of the other movies that I might have referenced, or something like Children of the Damned, or Children of the Corn for that matter, this is right up your alley. Do not pass this one up this holiday season. So thanks again for watching, guys. Be sure to tune in to my friend JT Horror Discussions channel later on this evening, as he and I and a slew of other great people are going to be tuning in for a live watch stream of The Exorcist 3. Mark it down and we hope to see you there. And as ever, stay tuned to this channel for more holiday horror content very soon.